There's a moment most people don't talk about. When you're alone, and a voice in your head says something like, "You're not good enough. You're faking it." If people really knew, they wouldn't stay. That voice feels like you. It isn't. And that's the trick. The most effective form of control doesn't come from the outside. It sounds like your own thoughts. In KPop Demon Hunters, there's a villain who doesn't need power, because his victims do the job for him. And by the end of this episode, you'll see why this same system is already running in your life. On the surface, this is a story about a K-pop group, Huntrix. Rumi, Mira, Zoe, 3 of the most famous performers in the world. But underneath the idol life, they carry a second identity, Demon Hunters. Trained to protect humanity from supernatural forces that feed on something very specific. Human souls weakened by fear, loneliness, obsession. These demons don't need to hurt you. They just need you to watch, to admire, to obsess. And while you're focused on them, something gets taken. Huntrix's music isn't just entertainment. It's a barrier between the human world and the demonic one. Their voice, literally, is what keeps the world safe. Which makes what happens to Rumi so significant.
Rumi, are you okay? Do you need some water?
She starts losing her voice. Not from exhaustion, not from pressure. From something she's been hiding quietly for years. And that's where the real story begins. Here's what Gwi-Ma actually does. Not what the film says, what he actually does. He doesn't send monsters. He sends something far more dangerous. He sends something the audience wants. But that's not the real weapon. The real weapon is Jinu.
Will he let the fire go out?
Jinu is the Saja Boys' leader, human turned demon, and his backstory is the key to understanding everything. 400 years ago, Jinu's family was in poverty. He made a deal, fame and recognition in exchange for his soul. It worked. His family was given everything they never had, and then it all collapsed through his own choices. Chasing wealth and comfort once the door was open, and ever since, he's been carrying one belief: I destroyed my family. Gwi-Ma doesn't control Jinu with chains. He controls him with that sentence. Every time Jinu thinks about leaving, that voice gets louder. Not from the outside, from inside. The chain wasn't metal, it was memory. It was shame. Now look at Rumi. She's half demon. She hides it from her bandmates, from the world. She performs perfectly while quietly believing, I'm not what I'm supposed to be. Her voice doesn't fail because of Gwi-Ma's power. Her voice fails because she's ashamed of what she is. That's Gwi-Ma's real genius. He doesn't need to attack his enemies directly. He just needs them to already be ashamed of something. He doesn't create the wound. He finds it and makes sure it never heals. He never touched her. He didn't need to. What Gwi-Ma is using isn't supernatural. It's one of the oldest human strategies in existence. Here's the framework. Step 1. Find the wound. Not the surface wound, the deep one. The thing the person believes about themselves, that they have never said out loud. For Jinu, I destroyed my family for my own ambition. For Rumi, I am fundamentally wrong. I am not what I appear to be. For the fans, I am lonely. I am not enough. Step 2. Don't attack the person. Confirm the wound. This is the move nobody talks about. A threat from outside can be resisted, but a voice that says, quietly, almost gently, you already know this about yourself. That voice has no defense, because it isn't lying. Step 3. Make leaving feel like proof. The genius of shame as a weapon is this. It makes the cage feel like evidence. If Jinu leaves Gwi-Ma, he's abandoning the only identity he has. If Rumi reveals her patterns, she confirms what she feared. She doesn't belong. If a fan stops watching, they lose the community that fills the emptiness. The exit is designed to feel like the worst version of yourself. Every guilty person is his own hangman. Seneca. 2,000 years ago, one of Rome's sharpest minds identified something that every sophisticated manipulator since has understood. You don't need to destroy your enemy. You just need to hand them the weapon and step back. Gwi-Ma doesn't defeat Huntrix. He waits for them to defeat themselves, and it almost works. If Gwi-Ma feels too large, too supernatural to feel useful to you, look at someone who ran the exact same strategy on a much more human scale. Dolores Umbridge. Umbridge is never the most powerful person in any room. She has no extraordinary magic. She doesn't need it. What Umbridge has is something more useful. She knows what each person is most ashamed of, and she uses it with surgical precision. She doesn't tell Harry he's dangerous. She makes him wonder if he is. She doesn't tell Neville he's a failure. She finds every situation that makes Neville feel like one. She doesn't shout. She doesn't threaten. She just consistently, methodically positions people so that their own self-doubt does the work. I must not tell lies. That detention isn't about pain. It's about identity. 5 words written by your own hand over and over. I must not tell lies. Not you told a lie once. You are someone who lies. This is what you are. Now compare the two. Umbridge operates in a closed institution. One school, specific targets, personal, intimate shame. Gwi-Ma operates at civilizational scale. An entire species. Shame weaponized through performance. Through parasocial obsession. Through the voices he amplifies inside his enemies' heads. But here's the crucial analytical difference. The one most people miss. Umbridge needs to be present for the strategy to work. Remove Umbridge from Hogwarts, the shame machine stops. Gwi-Ma built something more durable, a system that runs without him. Because he didn't give the shame to his enemies. He activated shame they were already carrying. And shame that lives inside you doesn't leave when the villain does. The most dangerous prison is the one where you hold the key and still don't leave. Gwi-Ma is fiction, but the strategy isn't. Because right now, in the real world, there is a machine that runs exactly this playbook. No supernatural power, no ancient demon, just a phone screen, and an audience that learned to do Gwi-Ma's job for free. In the real K-pop industry, companies don't need to threaten their artists directly. They built something more efficient. They built a fandom culture so devoted, so parasocially invested, that the fans themselves enforce the rules. In 2014, EXO member Baekhyun confirmed he was in a relationship. He didn't commit a crime, he didn't breach his contract, he fell in love. Fans sent funeral wreaths to his company building, a Korean symbol of death, of mourning, of "you have betrayed us, you are dead to us." The company didn't have to say a word. Baekhyun issued a public, tearful apology for being in a relationship. Nobody forced that apology because the system made it feel necessary. This is Gwi-Ma's mechanism in the real world. The company doesn't control the idol through power. It controls them by building a fandom culture where any deviation from the manufactured persona is treated as a betrayal. The idol doesn't fear the executive, they fear the fans. And that fear, that constant self-monitoring, that gap between the real self and the performed self, that's the voice Gwi-Ma amplifies. Not external, internal. The most sophisticated version of this strategy doesn't require a single threat. It just requires you to care what people think of you. And then it builds an audience of millions who all think at the same time. Here's what makes KPop Demon Hunters genuinely interesting analytically. It doesn't just show you how the shame strategy works, it shows you how it breaks.
These are a constant reminder of my shame. A shame I can never escape.
Jinu tells Rumi the truth. Not a curated version, not a justification. The real story. Ambition, regret, 4 centuries of carrying it alone. And Rumi doesn't reject him. She recognizes it. And something shifts. Jinu tells Rumi that shame enslaves demons, that Gwi-Ma's voices get louder when you hide. Rumi tells Jinu that her shame about her patterns was what silenced her voice, not Gwi-Ma's power, her own. And something shifts. Her voice comes back, not because she fixed herself, because she stopped hiding.
I don't hear his voice.
The shame strategy has one structural weakness. It requires secrecy. The wound only functions as a weapon as long as it's hidden. The moment it's seen, fully, by someone who doesn't use it against you, its power as a control mechanism evaporates.
My voice without the lies, this is what it sounds like.
Gwi-Ma doesn't lose because Huntrix becomes more powerful. He loses because his weapons stop working. The shame finds no purchase. There's nothing left to hide. The most powerful counter-strategy to shame isn't confidence, it's honesty. Here's what every villain in this episode has in common. Gwi-Ma, Umbridge, the real-world idol machine. None of them manufactured the thing they used as a weapon. They found it. It was already there. The shame was already inside Jinu. The self-doubt was already inside Harry. The fear of being seen was already inside the idols.
You come here like this, you think you can fix the world. You can't even fix yourself.
I can't.
The villain's only move was to find it and make sure it never got resolved. That's what makes this the most sophisticated villain strategy in the YHP series so far. Jafar needed a lamp. Scar needed a stampede. Gwi-Ma needs nothing. His enemies come pre-equipped. He just has to keep the lights off. And the most dangerous version of this strategy, the one Gwi-Ma runs that Umbridge doesn't, is when the villain doesn't even need to be present anymore. When the voices are so embedded they feel like your own thoughts. When the system runs itself, when the shame is so internalized that the target becomes their own jailer. That's not just a villain strategy, that's architecture. And the only thing in KPop Demon Hunters that defeats it is also the only thing that's ever defeated it in history. Two people in a room telling each other the truth. The question Gwi-Ma never has to answer is, who taught you it was safe to speak first? Gwi-Ma's strategy works because the voice lives inside you. The weapon is inside the target. The cage has no walls. But there's a more advanced version of this. What if you didn't have to control the voice inside someone's head? What if you could decide what that voice sounds like? What if you could shape the story millions of people tell themselves at the same time? Not through fear, not through shame, through belief. In the next episode, we study a villain who doesn't hide in the shadows. He stands in the spotlight. He doesn't silence the truth. He replaces it.
Good to see you. I love you guys. You are America. True patriots.
And even when people see who he really is, they don't walk away. They choose him. Huntrix defeated Gwi-Ma, not with greater power, not with a better strategy, with the one thing shame cannot survive, being seen, fully, and staying anyway. If you missed episode 2, Scar, or episode 5, Jafar, the thumbnails are on screen now. Both of them feed directly into what we covered today. Subscribe, because the next episode isn't about a villain who controls you. It's about a villain you would defend.